Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert. Welcome back to the TED Show. I'm excited. This young man just traveled, I don't know, through the candy cane forest. If you're an elf fan, he traveled all the way over from the West Coast to come be on the show. I'm excited to have Jason Smith here. His company, which is branded everywhere, which I love, Realty AF. I mean, come on! I can't wait to get the origin and genesis of that. I'm super excited to have him on. He just made a shift in his real estate career, and we're going to talk about that. But welcome, Jason. It's so good. It's somebody in person.
Right.
I love it. I wish when you walked in, I'm like, oh, okay, so we're doing a show in person. That's good.
Yeah.
But I do love the energy. So welcome. Tell them a little bit about you. Before we went live, I said the audience loves that origin story, kind of wants to know about you. So give them a little background on you before we take a deep dive into real estate and Realty AF and your transition.
Yeah, definitely. So, I've been in business 12 years. Hail from a small town in northern New York, as I was saying off camera. Originally from Canada, actually. So
you'll hear it a little bit when he says out.
About 20 minutes south of the Canadian border is where I hail from, and big military base called Fort Drum. Grew up blue collar, got in the real estate industry, and made a name for myself pretty quickly as an independent agent and ran the #1 team up in that region for some time.
Why did you get into real estate? Why real estate? Like what most people, like we said earlier before we went live, you're not 5 years old and go, I want to be a realtor.
I think it's the silly story of, hey, I want to buy a rental property or build a portfolio and let's get a real estate license and see how this works out. And that's really as simple as that.
What'd you do before?
As I said, I worked, I grew up blue collar. So, school hard knocks, worked highway construction. I used to actually have a short run production machine shop, actually. So we used to build all kinds of fancy things for like hydro units and all kinds of shiny object stuff. So, so mechanically inclined, didn't have that background, and which was helpful, selling houses too, of course. And, we moved down here a couple years ago, and,
from the frozen tundra.
Yeah, frozen tundra for sure. The joke of moving down as we traveled down here became, less and less of a joke. Of course, we ran our team up there. So it's like, geez, what would this look like if we recreated what we did up there, down here? And of course, COVID happened, which was massively impactful for us in New York. And, for the first time in my life, I think I was out of control as a result of what was going on in the world.
Sure.
But yet I was eerily calm. And
I think a lot of people felt that way, right?
Yeah.
I feel like people were, okay, I'm calm.
Yeah.
Like it's giving me this moment to kind of reevaluate, but you're still like this.
Yeah. And, we had actually just moved into a home, and as I said, I work highway construction, so I could get out a piece of equipment and work on things and stuff. And my project, basically, because we couldn't do anything else, we're completely shut down, was doing hard landscaping on our property, basically. So we had a bunch of natural rock and stuff on the land, and that was what I did. And I came in one day and I said to my wife, "I'm ready." She's like, "What are you talking about?" "I'm ready. Ready for what?" "I'm ready to move to Florida." Obviously thought I was,
lost your mind.
Yeah, and then we made a plan. I think we went down, got real serious about it. I think it was June after COVID had happened. Came down, my birthday's in June, so we came down actually to Orlando and just visited and just kind of got a lay of the land on what, kind of a plan of attack, went with some brokerages, of course. And by February, we were down here. So, yeah.
What was the impetus behind Realty AF? Because you know that if anybody knows me, I have an art show that's called Art AF, and so I just love the concept. I mean, that's just an in-your-face, kind of bold, brazen, but very confident name. So was it when you said, "Hey, babe, it's time to move," and she goes, "Realty AF," or how did that all work out?
Yeah, so. It was always Jason Smith Real Estate, the Jason Smith team. It was always branded around my personal name, of course. And then when we decided to move to Florida, we actually rebranded ourselves called the Realty Smiths. At the time, my wife had partnered with me. She had joined, was still the Jason Smith team. So we rebranded ourselves coming to Florida. So kind of the whole corny Mr. and Mrs. Smith thing, we called ourselves the Realty Smiths.
I like it.
So, and actually originally Realty AF was originally created to create a podcast, However, I never actually followed through with that. I never
That's the
launched
best
it.
part.
And
the shirt still says it, right?
Yeah, there's a little thing, weekly updates. So as things progressed, we started getting into the coaching platform, and what am I going to call this coaching platform? So like the biggest thing that I have, I've had real estate coaches and trained with many people and spent oodles of dollars on that and wasted some, of course, too. And I've kind of always had this disdain for people trying to sell you this blueprint, and it's BS, basically. So
Right.
I've always kind of been notorious for being very raw and real and outspoken. And you can't tell here, but I'm 6'7", so like
he walked in and almost didn't make it through the door.
Yeah, so it's like, at the end of the day, there's nothing profound in this business if you just put the work in. So it's like, that's the whole point of Realty AF, like just keeping it real and, maybe telling you what you need to hear, not necessarily what you want to hear, So that's kind of the background kind of.
Tell me about coaching, because I think that word gets thrown around a lot. I think there are people who have had bad experiences, so they're going to naysay the whole time.
Yeah.
I think people are fearful a little bit of coach, because then that means you got to get down to the nitty gritty and kind of find out what's stopping you, and you have accountability, which a lot of us say we want, but we don't. So talk a little bit about coaching. Why it obviously helped you, or you created your own program to help people. And it's got to be something I know you're comfortable with. So give us kind of an idea of coaching and what all that means.
Yeah, I think there's a difference between, a lot of people call themselves coaches and they're really teachers, right? They're just pushing a blueprint, like I said earlier. And it's like, okay, I was driving down the road with my wife, as we're brainstorming the idea of launching this. And I was like, hey, if I went to Home Depot and bought you a blueprint to build a house, could you build a house? And she was like, F no. Well, exactly. So it's like, it's like going whitewater rafting. Could you make it down the river by yourself without a guide? Probably. How's that going to end up for you, though, right? So, like, obviously, you have the guide to say, hey, this looks like the way to go, but it's not, and this is why, right? Because this is going to happen, and it's going to push you to the side of the rock, and you're going to crash, and bad things are going to happen. So, I've spent a lot of money making bad decisions, and
haven't we all?
And so obviously there's that piece of it too, and it goes further than that. I've had coaches, and it's just like working with clients. There's no cookie cutter way of doing this, and it's always been important to me, and it's certainly as important for me to work with a client, where I know your life, I know your kids' names, I know where you're at and why, and your pain points, because really the real estate part of it's actually easy. It's the life part, the mindset part that I think we all make very difficult. And
we make it difficult for ourselves. My coach, I try to take the narrative over. This is one of the things we struggle with, and I think so. I'm just sharing my dirty laundry. Is that when you're on the coaching end, when you work with a coach, it's so important to let them lead. Because otherwise, I'm just going to tell you all the things that you want to hear, and I'm going to blow over the issues and the challenges and maybe the things that are stopping me from moving to the next level. Yeah. And coaching is all about listening, which Jason's obviously a great listener, but it's also about you letting Jason do his job.
Yeah, some people aren't coachable. Some people, it's like the saying, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. Oftentimes the student's not ready, and teacher won't appear then. So like, even if they do, they won't. They may be there, but you're not ready, so you're not coachable. But I think a lot of these things are just getting people to self-discover. I did a class last Saturday on just branding and being the big fish in your market, something that we were very proud of our efforts in Northern New York. And as I've said, there's nothing profound in this business. It's just taking something and doing it, consistently and with effort. And, I believe in what's called like the rule of 100. Like, you find something, you do it for 100 days, spend 100 minutes on it, whatever it is, like a primary action. If you do that long enough, you'll have some success, right? And that's one of our programs, actually, 100 days to 100K. It's a very intense program. In 100 days, if you follow the program, you should be able to make six figures.
Do people? I'm always fat. I know that I know programs like that work. The number one reason they work is if you follow the program, because they've obviously spent the time, put the blood, sweat, and tears in to seeing this through, so they understand what's going to happen at the end. Yeah. When do you have people who struggle that say, yes, I'm going to do it, and then you have to rope them back in? I would imagine that's probably prevalent.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it, like I said, unfortunately, people get in their own way. They have limited self beliefs, and like afraid to just get on camera. You're in a business. This is a relationship business, and you got to get in front of people.
Yeah.
One of the things that I learned early on was, hey, Jason, you're a halfway decent looking guy, and you're really tall. You walk into a room, people notice you. You just need to get in more rooms. It's not that complicated, right?
True.
So. And it's just consistency. It's interesting. In 2014, I think it was, I was nominated by my peers with an exit for the Rising Star Award. And at the time, I had 45 listings, which is probably pretty unheard of in this market. And I didn't even really know what that meant to me at the time. So I'd have people that would come up to me and ask me all the time, what is it that you're doing? Whether it was something, were you doing something profound or maybe illegal or whatever.
Right.
Well, no, like
because they don't believe that there's any kind of formula to get you there.
Right.
So you had to have cheated or cut corners or had a golden spoon or all of that good stuff. And that's not true.
No. And at the time, so like being a coach now, like I can look back at that and like, what was that? And what that was the rule of 100. So at the time, my answer was, I don't know, I do the same thing every day. And that was all I really knew. And so like back then, kind of like how I look today, I looked the same every day. Like I wore the same, I literally, like I was known for the guy with a white watch, not a white watch on today, but like I was that guy, right? I just wore the same thing and just did the same things every day. And of course, there was many other things too, but really what that was the rule of 100 and just doing something with this massive action over and over and over. And then eventually the big wheel spins and it just works. And then once it gets spinning, it doesn't stop, right? So,
tell me and consistency to me is everything and not giving up. So if you set the goal as 100, then you have to go for 100. 98 is not going to help you. Right. 50 certainly not going to help you. You have to really commit. What is the biggest challenge you think that your coaching clients come to you with? Is it that they're afraid of camera? Is it that they're not doing well in this market? And what is it? Because I think a lot of people go, "Oh, he can't help me." Coaches really can't help. They're just going to regurgitate what I tell them back, and I'm such a believer that that's not true.
Yeah, a lot of it's ego, actually. So like, I'm relatively new to this education myself, and I think, as we all know, there's a lot of egos in this industry, whether it's on the mortgage side or the real estate side. There's massive egos. It's true. But what I never actually knew was ego isn't just thinking you're superior; it's believing you're inferior. It's the same. Actually.
Yes,
and
that's
most
really good.
People actually have an ego and they feel inferior. They project it as if they think they're superior, but really they're inferior. And so, like the biggest, I guess the common theme is just that it's ego. Really, it's limited self-belief, and it's like anything. It's like, well, I can't make this social media content because it's not good enough. It's like, well, just make something. So it's like 10 sixes is better than 110.
Yes.
Like it's just, you got to start somewhere. And
well, people will talk themselves out of success.
Yeah.
I have worked with people either on former teams or on boards or anything, and they will immediately be the naysayer of why things will not work. Mm-hmm. Instead of focusing on either a solution or figuring out why it can work or how to make it work. And I think when somebody comes when they finally made the step, they're like, all right, Jason, I got to know about coaching. I need to figure this out. I would imagine the very first thing in their minds is, but you're not going to tell me this, I'm not going to listen to this, and I'm not going to do that. Yeah. So not your formula, what I think should be the answer. And so you have to retrain people.
Right. Yeah, a lot of people overthink it. It's I'll tell you this weird story, and I think like this sometimes. So like I brought the family to SeaWorld, it was a couple weeks ago or something, and there was a Ludacris concert there. So it was busy, and then we were there to the end, and so we were like in the overflow market. So we get to leave, right? And then everybody does what? They follow the path to get out of the park.
Right.
So I'm about to do that. So as I'm about to do that, I look to the left and I see the entrance to SeaWorld, and the arrows are pointing towards me, right? And I know that the main road is just around the corner somewhat. So as I'm about ready to follow traffic, I rip a U-ey and I go out the entrance and get on the main road. And then what do you think happened?
Everybody followed you.
Everybody followed me. So the point I'm trying to make is when somebody's going this way, I want to go the other way. If in marketing, if somebody's doing, if 1,000 people are doing the same thing, I want to do something else. Right. And that changes. So it's like, in my opinion, now in today's, we're 2023, like people have forgotten fundamental things that have been just a staple of real estate for years. And I've only been in the business 12 years, but I've seen that it go back and forth. It's like TikToks. You see all these people doing TikToks, there's zero call to action. It's just, what is it?
No call to
understand, right? Like, you got to have some humanization stuff there, but like, it's because everybody's doing TikToks, people think that they need to be doing TikToks, right? But why are we doing that? What's the point?
There's a lot of no intention.
Yes.
I just want to throw a whole bunch. Well, this other realtor was doing, or somebody else was doing TikTok, so I guess I should do it.
Yep.
And there's no thought process behind it.
Yeah. So it's always like, so like some of the things, again, as I keep saying, and I say this word all the time, there's nothing profound, but you're always missing a couple dots, right? There's always like, hey, I'm doing this. Like I'm creating this great content, but I'm putting it on my business page. Well, your business page has 500 followers. Your personal page has 1,500. Why are you putting it on your business page?
That's such a great point.
So you can do all these great things.
I struggle with that. Because there are people out there of the mindset that if it should be on your business page only. And I'm always like, yeah, but the business, I get stuff on there, but I feel like my people who I'm trying to impact are on my personal page. But I had somebody early on say, don't post anything on your personal page. So I've obviously thrown that out the window. Mm-hmm. But I think those are the kinds of things that a coach can kind of help you with too.
Yeah, it's just connect the dots. And, I was conversing with a couple of gals yesterday about possibly joining our team. And, one of them was talking about just doing open houses and stuff like that. And like when I used to do open houses, like I would be obnoxious about it actually. Like, and there's a story about putting like a lot of signs.
A lot of signs.
And one of the realtors at the time, she was a friend of mine, not so much anymore. She called me up and, hey, geez, you think you're going to upset the neighbors, all the signs? And, like she said, do you think you have enough signs? And I said, obviously I have just enough. You called me.
She must have loved that answer.
So like, I believe like a lot of these things, people forget that in real estate, the house isn't the product, you're the product, right? In business, you need three things. You need sales, marketing, and a good product. Well, you're the product. The real estate agent is the product. So like if I'm going to 7-Eleven, I'm trying to buy a realtor off the shelf to sell my home, what am I choosing, right? Like what's going to stand out? Like what is it that you're doing to stand out from a branding perspective, right? And, and in my opinion, I think it's that extra 5%. So like everybody's doing open houses. Well, what can you do a little different? Like what's that extra 5%? I think if you're always thinking about that all the time with all effort, everything that you do, I think that's the difference between good and great.
It's good. All right. So you made a transition recently. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So, as I said earlier, I've been in business 12 years. I was an exit guy to start with, just big broker type thinking, and everybody was on 70-30 splits and went to 90-10 at 100K GCI. And, I actually formed my team with that same mindset. Of course, once you got exposed to how teams are supposed to be ran, you realize that's not a profitable proposition. So we changed to that. And then for the longest time, I was independent. So we decided to move to Florida, and we had a couple of movements from EXP, and then we got wins in Real, and then we are now at LPT Realty. So,
what's your why there? Why did you, after all that time, decide to go to LPT?
The place in my life is much different now. So, we're ramping up coaching, and I'm empowering my wife with the team, and we're still growing some efforts there as well. But my purpose has changed, and I think a lot of it's about who's leading the show here. And I'm a marketing guy, and as I said off camera, anytime you witness somebody that's doing it, like how you feel it ought to be done or how you've done it, of course, maybe not at that level, but the same mindset, right? You're attracted to somebody like that. So of course, I naturally migrated to that with caution. And I'll admit, originally, I was reluctant on some of how the model was going to be because, quite frankly, it used to be known that 100% offices is where agents go to die. So it's like,
it's true. Of course you were fearful of that because everything before you told you that's how it was going to be.
Yep. So, I followed and I watched, and of course, people were trying to get me a part of it. And some of those guys that I used to be in business with at Exit, went over and I just followed and watched. And I was like, man, this guy's really backing up value here. And like what he's doing is it's like all these things that I've had to pay for years. He's teeing you up and making you risk adverse to be able to come into something to be able to be profitable. Because at the end of the day, you have to be profitable. You have to produce. You have to sell homes. Before we even get into rev share and stock opportunity, you have to be able to produce. So it's like, how can I create a business? Obviously Robert's fine behind that, to be able to tee you up and give you resources and systems in place and leads. Let's not even forget that.
Right.
To be able for you to just work, do your thing, right? I mean, that's really the power of a team. Like, hey, you join my team, I'm going to give you all these things so you can just prospect, right?
Yes.
So he's doing it at a brokerage level scale. Nobody's done that. That's unprecedented. So like, a couple of comments that were made last week, a couple of weeks ago at the Grand Prix, from both Chime and Zillow. The growth of LPT Realty has been unprecedented. And today it's the fastest growing real estate company. So maybe you haven't heard of it, but you're going to. And it's pretty exciting. So, and I think we're just scratching the surface.
Agreed.
He's the number one spender with Zillow right now. Obviously, we have home value, as far as radio and TV and just pushing traffic to a central nucleus as far as lead flow and stuff. And again, if you're doing a certain production, you can get leads. You have the option of that. So
I think one of the things I know about Robert is that, please take a sip of your champagne. I'm the only one who's been drinking on camera, so thank you for that. One of the things I know about Robert, and that I think a lot of people question is, okay, there's got to be an ulterior motive. Like, when's the other shoe going to drop? And what I know about him is that he really probably stays up at night. Well, actually, I know he does, trying to figure out how to better what he's already bettered in the real estate world. Like, he's always thinking of positive ways. He listens to what you all have to say. I'm not getting paid to say this, by the way. This is my personal experience. He listens to what you all have to say, and he wants to make the changes that he can make the changes of. That's why when you bring up the 100%, he knew what the challenges were there. He knew that that was the perception that you went to 100% to die.
Yep.
And he's like, I don't want it to be like that. I know. And so he's always constantly thinking of ways to improve even what I feel like is a very improved system over the regular system right there.
Yeah, I mean, usually there's no value behind that, right? So it's like, hey, I'm going to give you 100% commission. There's a 5,000 cap, but I'm going to pour a massive amount of value behind it. My goal is for you to produce and to have revenue, right, at the end of the year. And then you can continue to grow. I mean, and then, hey, if you want to go to a business builder and go to an 80-20, you can. So like, just basic tools. Like at the Grand Prix last week, it was somewhat comical actually, one of the things he released with what's called DESI, the AI system. As if you join LPT, you just go in, you put your headshot in, your name, number, and all that stuff, and it populates a business card, populates like a basic sign, your 9-step marketing plan, and then a billboard if you do one sale, which is a great add-on. Obviously, a lot of people never ever will be on a billboard. So that was the first launch of it. Now, with that same system, you can do market updates. You can say, hey, just listed, just sold. Welcome to LPT Realty. It's pretty limitless and it's all AI focused. So at the event, there was a panelist and one of the gals was in social media and she does a lot of stuff. And she was like, so you're going to give all this stuff for free? And he was like, yeah. And she had this like, oh shit moment.
Yeah.
So for me, I've had to pay for those things. I've had to hire somebody. We've had in-house 100%. Marketing departments do that stuff. And like, that's $5,000 a month all day to do that stuff. So just all these things that you just have access to it. Like, and it just makes it so, especially for myself, like I don't have to pay for a CRM anymore. I don't have to hire a marketing guy anymore. All that stuff has already been done. And of course, if I want to get into customized signs, which I probably will, and I do, so those are things that are all a cost of mine. But like just the basic stuff that just nickels and dimes you are at your fingertips. And then the home value piece, so I've always been a radio TV guy myself and billboards and stuff. So he's creating, a path to generate leads at a massive scale in addition with Zillow. they'll give you the option of leads. You don't have to take the leads, but you can, so
it's so much like there.
Yep.
I feel like so much has been thought of. He's thought it out for you 5 steps ahead, trying to figure out what any kind of, like you were talking about, what are the barriers and objections that people would have. So is your long-term goal to expand into other states, into other parts of Florida? Because you're over on the west coast of Florida right now.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, a lot of my connections are in New York State. And of course, knowing other big team leaders across the nation. So we have connections in some of these other states that aren't open. But like, I think as I was saying off camera, so like where LPT is today in year one is actually a little bit bigger, or roughly the same as what EXP was after, I think, 8 or 9 years. And so in 2017, which is when the agent count that LPT has was what EXP was, I was approached to go to EXP, but I was tunnel vision with my team, and I was like, we're good, I'm going to do my own thing. Well, like seeing how big EXP grew to. So just think about that. That's like an 8x multiple of if we can have that same multiple of growth with LPT. I mean, that's pretty huge. So it's a situation where you're getting on a wave, before it gets really big. And I've missed things from a timing perspective in the past, and I wasn't willing to do that again. So
good for you. I think that's good. I think you had to. What did you say? You have to be ready.
Yeah.
You have to be in the mindset
right
to be ready. Tell me before I ask my last question. Since you're in real estate, are you a Chicken Little? The sky is falling and the market's terrible. Are you hey, we've stabilized and things are still good? You just have to hunt a little more. Where's your mindset on where the real estate market is?
It's all between your ears. Markets between your ears. So as I said earlier, that when I first started, the market in my neighborhood was 120 days average days on market. So most people never see that. So like you had to really, really grind and get creative then, So like if you've been in business the last 2-3 years, you don't even really actually have any idea.
You have no idea.
And these rates, they're high. But historically they're a smidge high, but not really. There'll be opportunities as they come down, and you just got to get creative. You just got to learn to adapt, and which is the importance of creating a brand and be identifiable and doing things that your competitor is not willing to do. And none of that stuff's ever really bothered me. I never really thought much of it at all. So, I think you just have to have the right mindset and be tough about it. And, it's whether there's political BS going on or, obviously there's stuff about China and Ukraine and all these things. We're always bombarded with all this negative stuff, and interest rates and whatever, And I mean, where I come from, there was, our main supplier was the military base. There was talks that the military base scaled back and shut down. Yeah, there's impacts, but you got to keep plugging along, and things are cyclical, and you got to just learn to adapt. So
mindset, I like it between the ears. All right, last question before you share all your data. I'd like to ask a personal question. Don't worry, I did not prep you. When I say the word hero, who's the first person that comes to mind for you?
Myself in 10 years.
Yourself in 10 years. That's a new answer. I like it. Tell me why.
I think it's just, I think I just want to keep growing. I think who I'm going to be in 10 years. And then obviously you're always going to be chasing that. So I think if you have that mindset, you're always going to be improving every day,
Yes.
I think my second answer would be all of my children are my heroes, I guess, and just seeing, I think kids, they're very resilient, and just some of the things that they have to go through that we put them through as parents.
You're not wrong.
Yeah, and
I don't know if I want to admit that. Yeah. Never mind, kids. I didn't say that.
There's moments where maybe I'm having a bad day, and they change your perspective on that stuff.
They do.
But to give a direct answer, myself in 10 years, I guess.
I love it. All right, how can we find you, Jason? Somebody wants to find out about what you do and Realty AF and all that good stuff. What's the best way?
Just find me on the web. If you look me up, Jason Smith, I got a link above to our Realty AF community page. You can certainly hop on there. Got a pretty basic name, Jason Smith, not too hard to find. If you see me walking around, I'm 6'7", so not hard to miss, and usually I have some swag on. So, and then of course, if somebody wanted to reach out to me direct, and call me 315-767-1823, and find us on the web as well. So, yeah, not hard to find, and we offer a couple programs: 100 days, 100K. We do a 60K Kickstart program. We're about to launch a spring forward boot camp. We're going to be launching the details on that very soon. And it's going to be some very inviting pricing to get rolling for people. So, and then of course we're looking to grow our team too. So if you're in the Bradenton, Sarasota vicinity, even Tampa, St. Pete, we're willing to talk to people that are willing to invest into us and willing to put the work in. So,
Jason, you're a joy, man. Thanks. It was a surprise to have you here in person. I'm thankful that you came all the way over here. I loved your energy. I knew it from when I was reading everything about you. And so what an amazing pleasure to have you here.
Sure, my pleasure. Yeah.
You guys, Realty AF coaching. If you're in the West Coast area, reach out to Jason. He is still building a team. If you want to learn more about LPT or his coaching or what he does, you can click on the link. There's a link going across, but I'll put it in the comments of the show. Come back on anytime, my friend.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
I appreciate you.
Definitely.
And cheers.
Yes.
Cheers. I mean, it's been a Friday.
Yep.
All right, y'all. Have a safe, blessed weekend. I don't know when you're going to see this show, but we're going to get it to you.